Hello there, my name is Sixo, but more on that later because we have something absolutely ridiculous to show off today. It's this rather adorable set of knockoff Generation 1 Dinobots, and they are surprisingly worth a look. Like, don't get me wrong, anybody going into this expecting top-tier collector-grade quality or anything like that is going to be sadly disappointed, but it is a really fun set, so we're going to check it out today, see what it's all about, and you can judge for yourself, let's put it that way. Now, this video is brought to you by TF Source, so you will find a link to their site in the description below, and you can go ahead and check them out for all your Transformers needs. As for this set today, I've seen it doing the rounds on social media, but it hails from the wild west of AliExpress, and it's very, very cheap. It cost me about £15 shipped, I think, all in, so it's really not an expensive outlay. I do also kind of want to stress straight off the bat that as enjoyable as this set is, I probably wouldn't recommend it for kids. Like, I'm not personally going to give it to my son to play with, just because it is a knockoff, you don't know the quality of the paint or the materials or any of that kind of stuff. You do you, but for me personally, it's one I'd be a little bit wary of in that regard. Now, in case it's not obvious what's going on here, these are actually kind of knockoffs of the Generation 1 Seacons, sort of anyway, like you can sort of see it with some more than others. They do transform into robot modes as well, but the robot modes are quite ropey and they actually do combine, so we'll get to all of that in good time, but let's check out those dino modes first. Starting with this guy, who can be called Slag or Slug or Slog or whatever you want to call him, and actually this one looks pretty good, I think. Fairly decent approximation of that dino form. Colours are obviously a little bit different, but you know, on the whole, not bad. Now you'll see on all of these that the finish is kind of a mix of sort of shiny silver paint and bare plastic, grey plastic in places. The yellow is bare as well, so, but it doesn't look bad. I mean, again, it's definitely not top tier quality going on here, but you know, fine, it is what it is for 15 quid. But the mouth moves, so that's something. He's got a little black jaw at the bottom, black horns as well, they don't move, that's just a single piece. You can move the legs and stuff as well, obviously for transformation and things, so there's a little bit of posability, I guess. Oh, and actually the head will rotate, so that's something. Next up, we've got the Stegosaurus Snarl, and my word, he's cute as a button. Just look at that little face, honestly. There's a tiny bit of gold paint on the spikes here, not on the red one, so that's a little bit of a shame, but still some effort was made. As I say, the face is beyond cute. Then we've got Sludge, which to my eye might actually be the closest approximation of all of them to the G1 toy. There's something about that neck and the face sculpt with the gold that's not too far away anyway. Like, don't get me wrong, you're not going to confuse them, are you? But you can see what I'm saying anyway. So now again, the mouth does move on this little guy. He's got a little kind of black lower jaw just there. A little bit of paint. I initially thought that this was the eye up here. I'm pretty sure that on the moulding that is meant to be the eye, this little gold bit, but obviously then they've painted this bit underneath, so that's a little bit strange. Now Swoop, the Pteranodon, is actually looking pretty swish. Like, that blue paint on the chest area there is really quite shiny, and it does scratch a little bit. There are a few scuffs on it already, but honestly cleans up pretty nicely in terms of the alternate mode here. Now there is articulation in the head that will move from side to side. And what else you got? You got a little bit of articulation in the wings. Otherwise, he's a bit of a brick. I mean, you've got very obviously kind of, you know, robot mode arms hanging off here. I think it's this robot mode head that is the most egregious bit, which is just kind of sat there. I mean, you can fold it forward. It's very stiff. You can fold it forward like so, but then it's just kind of hanging off you know, the chest like that, so that's not really ideal. So it just sort of sits there, if anything. Quite cute on the back though, got a little tail hanging out there that does not move at all. It's got his little feet, those are also static. And again, honestly, the paint looks decent overall. Like, you know, I wouldn't go licking it or anything, but looks alright. Then we come to Grimlock, who perhaps other than Snarl might be the most funny of the bunch. Like, it just makes me chuckle, this thing, so much. It's so obviously remolded from a Seacon, kind of. And it's definitely got a fish vibe about it, like fish come Tyrannosaurus Rex. And did he borrow Spike's yellow wellies, or what's happening there? But, you know, there's a bit of gold paint going on in different areas, a little bit of red there. It doesn't look bad at all, it's just kind of a bit goofy. And the mouth will open, but that equally looks quite ridiculous. What is that, honestly? So quite funny. And the little arms will articulate also, so, you know, it's got a bit of play value. Speaking of which, there are a couple of guns included with this set. Now, they're mostly for the combined mode. I think that's where they're the most useful, but in Grimlock's case, you can just peg that kind of double blaster onto his back, like so, and that actually does have this little section which will pull up slightly. It kind of reminds me on the G1 toy of the little cockpit for the Dinauts and things, but Here, it's just sort of used for the guns. There's a second set of those guns as well. They can actually be separated into single weapons, and you can stick them on Slag here. Or you could separate them out again and put them underneath Swoop's wings, so I think that's a nice touch. And in terms of the set of Dino modes overall, it's really quite enjoyable, honestly. It does have big Scramble City Combiner vibes, as I say. Definitely not on the same tier as any of the kind of legit teams, but you can see the DNA of it at least. And honestly, for a really cheap knockoff set, this is not bad. Anyway, in terms of comparisons here, you can see Slag with the vintage 1985 original toy, which is the largest one on offer here, and the unofficial world's smallest Slag as well. Then here you've got Snarl with his vintage equivalent. So again, the vintage 1985 one is the largest here, and the unofficial world's smallest is the smallest. Sludge has always been one of my favourite G1 toys. I had it as a kid, so here you can see again the 1985 original and the world's smallest. And I repeat what I said, I think this KO does a fairly good job at approximating that, on a budget, let's say. And then we have what for many kids was the holy grail growing up, especially over here in the UK, because we never got Swoop released. And of course the vintage original is red, unlike the original Diaclone, which was blue, but the cartoon Swoop was also blue, so it's a whole thing. And then we have no less than 4 Grimlocks for you. From left to right, we've got the unofficial world's smallest, we've got the 1989 Pretender Grimlock, we've got the KO, and then we've got the 1985 original. No Action Master here, we'll save that for the robot modes. In terms of other comparisons, I thought it might be fun to line him up against a G1 Seacon, just to see what we're talking about when we're, looking at this being a KO of that set. And you can see that actually it's fairly extensive, the overhaul. The DNA of it is definitely there, but it's absolutely not one-to-one, so it's quite an original set in a weird way. Fair to say they also scale pretty well versus a G1 Devastator, weirdly. Like, this is not a comparison I ever thought I'd be making, but here we are, I guess. Honestly though, it's once you start transforming these guys that the kind of KO-ness of them becomes more apparent, right? Like, just prepare yourself, that's all I'll say. So you just want to kind of rotate this back end round like so, fold the little tail up. These are his robot mode arms, which just kind of come down on the sides. This dino head rotates round and actually collapses down onto the chest. That's quite a nice little maneuver just there. And then the head, the robot mode head, just flips up like so. And yeah, that is the result. I said it was a bit ropey. I wasn't lying. I mean, what's going on with those feet, right? Like those legs. It's interesting. I mean, there's no obvious configuration for these dino legs because they can't actually rotate round to the back. It won't allow them. So you could have them out like that and then make these his robot mode feet as well. Does that look better or worse? I'm not really sure. Like, there's no doubt for me that these are not meant to be his robot mode legs, that this is supposed to be his robot mode feet there. So you kind of have to have the dino legs sticking out the front, if anything. It's very strange. But actually, there is some benefit to this guy. He has one of the better head sculpts of this set. And when I say it's better, I'm talking comparatively, right? Like, if this is not a gold standard of head sculpt at all, but compared to what we've got on some of the others, it's among the best, actually. Don't worry, you're definitely about to see what I mean on old Snarl here. So you just fold up his little head just there, and then this whole body section slides out. Now the legs do, or should fold up, I say, they should. You have to kind of pull them out a little bit. These will actually detach these legs completely for a little bit of parts forming, but if you pull them out just enough, then they will kind of slide up over the little ridges just at the bottom there. Then you want to fold his tail down onto his back, and then for the legs, these sections will, and you get them out of the way, will just fold down like so, and that's the robot mode arms. And I don't know what some of you were hoping for when we got to robot mode, but I'm fairly certain it probably wasn't this, right? Like, this is not what you were holding out for, I'm guessing. Like, is that a head sculpt? It's in the right place. It sort of looks like it should be. It's got the kind of Scramble City cube thing going on, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Sludge is actually one of the most simple of the bunch. You just pull the whole front half of the dino down and then fold it up like that, and that's actually the legs, which is kind of funny to see, his little neck just hanging off the back there, but hey, it is what it is. Then you fold the legs and the hands down like so, and then the tail section just folds onto his back, and you're done. This is how G1 Sludge has always looked, right? Like, he's always been this, whatever this is, this thing. And if any of you thought that I was joking when I said that Slag had one of the better head sculpts, I invite you to witness whatever's going on here. Now, Swoop fans might be pleased to hear that this thing actually transforms in a not too dissimilar fashion from the G1 toy, but it's very stiff. Like, you really have to push hard on those legs these feet as well, give your thumb a real workout. That is incredibly tight on there. And then this head will rotate round onto his back, and then you fold the wings over like so, and you're done. I think on balance that might be one of the more successful looking robot modes of the set, maybe? Well, at least that would be true if not for one thing, which is that he absolutely cannot stand up. Like, you've just got no hope of it. But you know, a tiny bit of blue tack under one of the feet sorts that out soon enough. And actually, the face sculpt on this isn't too bad. It's very G1 Seacon, if anything. Not Swoop at all, but Seacon. Got little flecks of blue paint all over my desk now. I've transformed this thing as well. Last but not least, we come to Big Grim himself, and this thing transforms in a way I did not imagine, because if you flip the tail back over here, that's actually his head, which I really did not think was going to be the case. And then this bit, of course, pulls out and folds backwards, and that's the feet. And then the arms just come down here, and in true classic Grimlock style, they push backwards like so. That's really tight though, really tight, and there we go. And again, although this thing looks very little like G1 Grimlock, you can see that an attempt was made here. Like, there's some gold on the chest, and the cuffs kind of look like they should, like an attempt was made. And again, he's got one of the better head sculpts on offer. I mean, it really does remind me of the Seacons on this one as well, but it's fine. Also included with this set are several pieces to make up a larger sword for the combined mode, and then when it breaks down, you've got some individual swords as well. There are 3 of them here. You get 2 of this kind, 2 of this one, and 1 of this one, plus some extra pieces for the combined mode hilt and things like that. Not all the swords fit brilliantly in every hand, but if you pick your weapon, then you might just get them in there sort of okay. Oh, hang on, I just got Swoop to stand. I swear, no blue tack either. I've no idea how that happened, but it's happened. And then here we have the full lineup in robot mode, and honestly, this is by far and away the weakest part of this set, right? Like, if you're buying these guys for their robot modes, you're going to be very much disappointed. It's just not what it's about. The Dino modes are alright. The combined mode, as we'll see, is actually pretty good. Like, it's pretty good. But these modes, man, janky. That's what I would say. They are janky. Be that as it may, here you can see Slag versus the 1985 legit equivalent, and of course it's no real comparison because that figure is absolutely glorious in every single way, and this KO's robot mode is... yeah, well, you can judge for yourself. Next we come to Snarl, and honestly I'm struggling to tell which is which here. Like, it's very confusing. Of course you've got the 1985 original on the right, and actually here we've got the Action Master as well, because there was an Action Master Snarl from 1990, which a lot of people seem to forget about, but there he is in all his glory. Then it's time to check out my gorgeous Sludge. I absolutely love this toy so much, and here it is versus the new version. So yeah. Then it's the Battle of the Swoops, and of course we've got a bit of a colour change going on again here, because the 1985 Swoop is red on the chest, even though it's not cartoon accurate. That's just how things were back in those days. Then we've got a bit of a Grimlock party, because we've got the G1 original, the Action Master again from 1990, the KO, and the Pretender version, complete with shell, although no hat, because Pretenders do not wear hats in this house. It's a bit of a rule going on. So yes, it's fair to say that these robot modes are not going to be winning any awards, unless of course someone set up like a Transformers equivalent of the Razzies or something, but all is not lost because we already know that the Dino modes are pretty cool, and there's one more configuration yet to come, because yes, as I've mentioned, these do combine. Now we'll start with Sludge first of all and get the legs done, and all you want to do first of all is just fold his little hands in like so, and then apply a foot. And then you have yourself a leg. I'm just now realising that actually I've been a little bit unfair to Snarl here, because as it turns out, his legs actually rotate round like so. So I think that's maybe meant to be his robot mode, with this kind of, I don't know, kind of hanging off there. Is that better? Or is it worse? I don't know, judge for yourselves. As I say, you can let me know what you think in the comments. But it's kind of handy because this is actually also his combined mode form. I mean, again, all you're going to do is just plug a little foot in at the bottom there and you're done. That said, I might opt to just fold these arms around to the back slightly, just to hide them just a little bit, eh? Now, a lot of people might expect it to be Grimlock, but actually Slag is the middle bot here. So you just fold those legs down, and that's what connects onto the other limbs. And then you can fold these little arms backwards, and you're pretty much done, actually. So yes, Grimlock is an arm in this setup, and you just want to fold down these little bits on his arms like so, do both of those, and then actually the head comes down. That's very Scramble City. People will recognize that as the kind of combiner port, and then just plug the hand in at the end. And it's a similar story with Swoop, who is the other arm. You just want to fold down that head like so. It's very stiff. And then actually here, the wings detach. They're quite stiff too. You have to kind of pull them to get them off. And then this head, the bird head, actually kind of folds up like so. And then attaching this hand is slightly more intricate. It actually just kind of pegs between his legs, which is a little bit Feral Rex for those of you that have that MMC combiner. And then it's time to get combining. First things first, you want to attach the legs to the main body. Those heads just kind of slide in on the bottom of the feet like so. And it's a similar story with the arms, which just plug in. And then you've got Swoop on the other side. Now don't worry, there is some more to it. So you want to take the two Swoop wings and actually combine those in the middle. And then in the back here, you've got this twin pair of ports into which you can peg one of the pairs of blasters. And that just pegs onto the back of the combine mode like so. Very straightforward. You can then equip one of the hands with the other pair of blasters, and this is where we go ahead and make the sword with all the bits left over. Starting with the two hilt pieces, and then adding together the two pairs of grey pieces, before plugging those onto the sides of the hilt like so. And then when you're done, you have a fairly nifty looking sword, which naturally takes its rightful position in his other hand. We're not quite done though. There is the crowning glory, which is the combine mode head sculpt. And there we go, all done. And I have to say, I think it's actually pretty smart that all of the various pieces have some sort of use, like the way the sword comes together, stuff like this. I have seen a couple of different configurations for it, but this is how I like it to look, and it's not like it's an official thing, so whatever really. But honestly, the result is kind of cool. It's G1 Volcanicus, maybe? I mean, let's start with the obvious thing, right? It's not perfect. Like, again, if you're expecting a masterclass in combiner engineering, this is not that. And it's fair to say that that combine mode face sculpt is goofy as you like. I mean, it's pants, isn't it? Let's be honest, it's absolutely pants. I just can't stand it, honestly. The mouth, the little ears, it's the one element of this combine mode that I'm not so sure about, because honestly, everything else is pretty good by and large. I have seen a couple of people kind of attempting to rectify this a little bit, like by painting it black, which helps enormously, like night and day difference, maybe with some red eyes as well, a little red visor. Honestly, as I say, everything else here I kind of like. I really like the symmetry of like Grimlock's tail with Swoop's head and the wings, and it works for me. Like, there's an overall aesthetic here that actually I think is kind of good. Like, again, don't get me wrong, we're not talking figure of the year here, right? Like, you know what you're getting when you kind of have an entry price like this, and in that regard, it's kind of actually good value for money, weirdly. Like, it is a bit ropey, but also kind of fun. The little knuckles with these spikes really reminds me of Feral Rex, again, from MMC. There's no way that that wasn't an inspiration here. With the sword as well, unmistakable. Got a bit of weirdness going on here with the two arms from the two leg bots kind of almost getting in the way of one another. They're just sort of touching. It's not a major problem. Honestly, you can actually remove these if indeed you want to, but I'm fine with it as is. But you know, on the whole, as far as knockoffs go, there's some real creativity going on here. And actually, I wouldn't have minded if they'd have given it a little bit more budget. You know, a few more paint applications, a little bit of a better finish, definitely a better head sculpt. Doesn't help that my copy has some very sloppy paint applications going on as well here. Now, in terms of size here, you can see him versus G1 Piranacon. I keep talking about the Seacons as like a comparison, and actually you can see that in combine mode he's a little bit shorter, and that's on account of not having kind of one of those larger main bots as many of the Scramble City style combiners do. Size wise he's probably a little bit more comparable to Devastator, still not quite there in terms of head height, but honestly this kind of works, I think. And if you're going to have a G1 Volcanicus of some kind, then you're going to want it to face off against Devastator, aren't you? Well, either that or my beloved G1 Predaking. I absolutely adore this toy, but of course you can see he majorly overshadows the KO in this case. And finally here you have him versus Retro G1, Optimus Prime and Hot Rod. And yeah, he's not that much bigger really, so definitely kind of loses a bit of height on account of not having like a larger main bot in the sort of Scramble City style, but still, I kind of enjoy it, I don't know. Overall then, for 15 quid ship, what else do you want? I mean, the actual listing is like £6 something, you know, it's absolutely bonkers. It's a ridiculous thing. The robot modes are complete crap, the dino modes are surprisingly cute, and the combine mode is actually pretty awesome, so go get it if you want it, I guess. Now, as already mentioned, today's video is brought to you by TF Source, so you will find a link to their site in the description below, and you can check them out for all your Transformers needs. I'd also be very grateful if you could leave me a like for today's effort as well, please, but otherwise that's it from me, so have a great rest of your day, and TTFN.